France's literary bad boy launches his latest novel, a revolutionary musical plays in Tehran, and comic book superstar Tintin is looking remarkably fresh-faced at 90 years old. That's all coming up in today's show. We're starting with an author hailed as a literary phenomenon here in France, and surely one of the country's best-known writers. Michel Houellebecq has just published his 7th novel, entitled Serotonin, which takes a closer look at social unrest in contemporary society. And while French publishers usually print around 5,000 copies of any new release, Houellebecq's popularity means the first print run was 320,000. Claire Rush tells us more.
Just hours after being released in bookstores, shelves are emptying. New Houellebecq novels often sell quickly in France, where dedicated readers rush to pick up their copy.
I'm a natural optimist, so I'm not too influenced by everything he says, but his analysis of society is spot on.
It's surprising to see how some of his earlier works predicted today's social trends.
Over the last 25 years, Houellebecq has crafted a unique tone and tackled dark themes: depression, sexual tourism, society in decline. His latest novel is about a depressed farmer suffering the consequences of globalization. For Agathe Novak-Le Chevalier, it's precisely this worldview that makes Houellebecq's prose so rich.
Houellebecq is very successful in conveying people's suffering. That is his literary mission. He goes behind the scenes and brings up issues that most people don't want to hear about. He's very good at doing this, which does annoy some people.
Houellebecq has won several prestigious literary prizes in France and has recently been awarded the Legion of Honor. But his art is not restricted to writing. Here he is with singer-songwriter Jean-Louis Aubert, who transformed Houellebecq's poetry into song lyrics. Houellebecq has also explored photography, often drawn to the urban concrete jungle. It's precisely his obsession with sordid subject matter that frustrates his critics. Over 10 years ago, Éric Nolot wrote an anti-Houellebecq pamphlet, and his opposition remains.
As a novelist, he's anti-dream and pro-nightmare. He only focuses on the saddest, most negative aspects of reality. Although I think he's a sociologist in some sense, in that he understands marketing well, it's all a smokescreen. It's not real literature.
Houellebecq has successfully exported his at times controversial work. He's praised U.S. President Donald Trump in the American press, and sold his work across Europe. Like his previous novel Submission, the newly released Serotonin is already available in Germany.
Staying with literature, we're taking a look at a film adapted from a play which was inspired by poet and writer Edmond de Rostand. He was responsible for one of France's best-known and best-loved dramatic creations, Cyrano de Bergerac. 120 years later, playwright and director ALEXIS MICHALIK brought Edmond's own story to the stage here in Paris, and the production's been a runaway success. Its cinematic version is now on the big screen. Shona Bhattacharya has the story.
Monsieur Coquelin!
Quoi encore?
At 29 years old, Edmond Rostand was a young writer full of doubt who had never tasted success. He had just 3 weeks to write Cyrano.
Edmond Rostand sees himself as a failure, and he wanted to render to his former glory someone who was also seen that way, because that's how he felt about himself. He had no self-confidence.
C'est ridicule.
Marchera jamais.
Cyrano de Bergerac was a 17th century French poet and writer, but Edmond Rostand's 1897 play made him into a superstar.
Je ne sais pas.
Et Roxane, que fait-elle?
Je ne sais pas.
Ça m'excitait beaucoup, évidemment. C'est un texte.
I was very excited, of course. It's such a beautiful script, so brisk, so full of life, and with a beautiful humor.
Du bel humour.
Until the last hour, no one believed in the play. The creative process, full of poetry and rhythm, pulses through the film until a much-needed miracle takes place.
L'auteur, Edmond Rostand, génie.
Comme à chaque fois.
Never in the history of theatre, apart from Cyrano, did someone enter the spotlight so quickly. 3 days after the opening, he got the Légion d'honneur. 3 years after the opening, he was admitted to l'Académie Française at 33 years old.
After conquering audiences with his play about a play, ALEXIS Michalik offers viewers a brilliant film, a declaration of love to the magic of the stage.
Next to a musical that may tell a very French story, but which has wowed audiences around the world. Long after successful stints in the West End and on Broadway, Les Misérables is currently drawing a sizable audience in Iran. It's the second longest running musical in the world, but this is only the second time a big budget show of its kind has hit theatres in the Islamic Republic after a 2017 production of Oliver. Director Hossein Parsaei calls the story a masterpiece without borders, but the cast and crew have had to make some compromises to please the country's censors. Catherine Bennett has this report.
Musical theatre fans might recognise this familiar overture, but this performance of the classic musical Les Misérables is in an entirely new setting. Victor Hugo's literary masterpiece has come to Iran for the first time.
When I saw Oliver Twist in London, I was filled with envy. I kept wondering if it would be possible to have a performance of the play in Iran one day. And as I was watching various videos of Les Misérables, I kept asking myself, why couldn't we have a big and glorious musical of Les Mis in Iran?
But recreating revolutionary France in the Islamic Republic has meant making some concessions. The actresses are all wearing wigs, as it's forbidden for women to show their hair in public. Women aren't allowed to sing solos, so actresses are always accompanied by another voice. And no touching between men and women. Characters Cosette and Marius can't even hold hands to express their love. Fortunately, director Parsaei is an old hand. He used to head the Performing Arts Department at the government censorship board, so he knows what can get through and what can't.
When a group is dancing in the Thénardiers' cafe, they are, of course, performing within the defined rules. That is, there's nothing that defies social norms or religious principles, nor anything that violates regulations.
With a 450-strong cast, crew and orchestra, it's enjoyed wild success, playing to sold-out audiences 6 nights a week since the run started in November last year. But the production has been criticised for its big budget, at a time when economic inequality is rife in the country. The tickets are too expensive for most Iranians, restricting the audience to a middle-class Tehran elite. But Parsaei has big ambitions. He wants Iran's capital to become the next Broadway.
He might be known for his youthful good looks, but Belgium's most famous boy reporter is celebrating his 90th birthday. The Adventures of Tintin was first published in 1929, and the series of graphic novels went on to be one of the best-selling publications of its kind around the world. His expeditions, intrigues and co-stars might be familiar to his readers, but Tintin still has a few secrets. We learn more thanks to a die-hard fan.
His red quiff is recognisable the world over. Tintin is now 90, but he remains one of the most popular comic strip characters of all time. Superfan Emmanuel Rambure-Lambert tells us what's behind the boy reporter's enduring appeal.
Thanks to Tintin, I could explore the world. I went on adventures. We didn't have TV at home. We got one very late. So Tintin let me discover the world.
And who better to go on adventures with than a loyal companion? Tintin's dog Snowy, or Milou in French.
Hergé named him after his childhood best friend Marie-Louise. Her nickname was Milou.
Marie-Louise is one of the first to see Hergé's sketches. He drew pictures for her when he was 10. Tintin was born some years later in the Belgian newspaper Le Petit Vingtième. Georges Rémy, aka Hergé, later said the inspiration for his hero also came from close to home.
People have often remarked that my brother, who's in the army, has all the characteristics of Tintin. I didn't notice it to begin with, but I think there's some truth in it.
And what of Marlinspike Hall, the home of his best friend, Captain Haddock? Hergé modelled it on the Château de Cheverny in the Loire Valley, but chopped off the wings to, he said, make it less ostentatious.
There are a number of castles with these sort of bell towers in France, and all of them like to claim to be Marlinspike Hall, but it was definitely Cheverny.
And finally, how to differentiate the two detectives, Thompson and Thompson with a P. The clue is in their facial hairstyle. Thompson without a P's moustache flicks upwards. The last word from Tintin superfans.
And finally, we're taking a look at a one-of-a-kind artistic display, the world's largest ice sculpture competition in Harbin, China. The event attracts breathtaking structures from around the world, with contestants carving their creations from illuminated blocks of ice. We'll leave you with a glimpse of a few of those frozen masterpieces. Do remember to check out our website, and you can also keep up with Encore on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.